In Hamas's world of moral confusion stands an Israeli ally of moral clarity. Join us. Khaled Abu Toameh, my dear friend and colleague of so many decades, al-Shaka al-Sadlana. This is our Middle East, Jews, Arabs, Christians, Muslims, Druze. Boy, you name it, we've got it in the Middle East. And today we are really honored to have two dear friends, Simon Deng and Naka Pitia, who are South Sudanese nationals. Naka's been living in Israel for many, many, many years. She's an Israeli, but coming with her own tremendous history from Egypt and from South Sudan. Folks, thank you so much. Simon Deng, a freedom fighter, a dear friend of Natan Sharansky, a dear friend of the Jewish people and Israel. You have an awful lot to say about the Hamas atrocities of October the 7th. There were Iranian taskmasters and funders. Simon, what brought you to Israel this time?
First of all, thank you for having me here, me and my sister, Naka. I came to Israel for this purpose of Southern Sudanese that happened to be in limbo in Israel at the time that when they are reaching out to their friend Israelis and the Jewish community, nobody seen them that they are friend to them. I was here 2 months ago when I walked from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in solidarity with Israel, so that as a friend of Israel, when Israel in crisis, as a friend in crisis, a friend have to come and be with them. Naka and Abrams and Josephs and Dan's, among the 4 Southern Sudanese who finished the walk with me. We started more than 4, but those 4 finished the walks, and we walked without hesitation that we have to be there for our friend instead of Israel. The reasons I just came now because the Supreme Court ordered the Minister of Interior to give the Sudanese from Darfur Muslims, the Sudanese from the Nuba Mountains, the Sudanese from Blue Nile, temporary residents. None of my people's age was included.
In other words, Israel's given several thousand Muslim Sudanese refugee status, permanent residency in Israel, but there are 120, 130 or so South Sudanese Christian allies of Israel, people like yourself and like Naka, who are prepared to stand up on an international stage on behalf of all Israelis.
What was the explanation they gave you for not giving the Christian community South Sudan?
And that's exactly why we are setting to meet with the Minister of Interior within these days before I leave, so that to give us the justifications that how can you take people who come with the same name, Sudan, which is a different, this is Southern Sudan and this is the Sudanese. And guess what? The Southern Sudanese are the one who came to Israel first. They are the one who came to as a lead coming to their friends.
And then the Muslims followed?
And the Muslims followed. Now today, the Muslims are the one joining the fruits and the benefits of this country, in which that we the one who brought them here, and then now we are being rejected by our friend. But I'm not believing that rejection, because somebody may not understood exactly the position and the stand of the people of Southern Sudan when it comes to the state of Israel.
What is the position? Can you explain it?
The position of Southern Sudan.
And how many people are we talking about? When we say Southern Sudan, how many people?
Those in Israel, because the numbers was about 3,000. But there was a time when the government of Sudan and the government of Israel did some things terrible by forced deportations of Southern Sudanese. They was taken back, and some of them end up dead because Southern Sudan technically at war by itself. My dear sister here, Naka, is one of the people who is being deported back. Good enough, there are some good Israeli family with a good intent felt that those kids who was taken here, because Israel as a country, especially Jewish community, when it comes to educations, the most people who cannot deny a child education is the Jewish community. So some of the family put their hand together, and people like Naka and others was brought back to Israel, and she's in university. And one of the people too, who happened to be my nephew, was brought back, and I think he finished his university. Now he is in the state. He converted to Judaism just to prove that Southern Sudan is part of Israel.
You know, viewers might ask, what makes people in Sudan love Israel and want to come to Israel?
In Southern Sudan. In 1969, goes back to 1967, Israeli government was the first country in the world who came and assist Southern Sudanese who was fighting the governments of Sudan, which is terrorizing and enslaving Southern Sudanese. It slaughtered 1.5 million. At that time, the total after the Second War is 4 million, but at that time 1.5 million. The only country in the world came and assist Southern Sudanese to give them a weapon to defend themselves is the state of Israel. My question today, what was good then and what is wrong today? Now Southern Sudan become independent. This is where we're supposed to have the very strong relationship. As I said 10 years ago, 15 years ago, those Southern Sudanese that happen to be here, they are the bridge of the two nations tomorrow. And I hope somebody in the government can give us that opportunity to prove it. And you mentioned Sharansky, which is a dear friend of mine.
Natan Sharansky.
Yep. I promised Natan Sharansky before independence, I said to him, when Southern Sudan become independent, the first country the president of South Sudan will visit will be the United States, then the second one is Israel. And we did that within 3 months. The second promise is the Southern Sudanese embassy will not be built in Tel Aviv, but it's going to be built in Jerusalem. And this is the promise that still is going to happen. And that will happen in my lifetime.
Naka, you grew up in Israel since you were 9 years old, right?
Yes, I came here when I was 9 years old from Egypt. I was born in Egypt, basically born a refugee. I would just like to add to answer your questions of why we support Israel so much. I think apart from the help that we got from Israel, I think it was also very much a religious reason as well. Because as Christians, we're basically, our morals and our ethics, our prayers are always for Jerusalem, always for Israel, without even knowing, without even having been there ever. As a kid, all you know is Jerusalem and Israel, Jerusalem and Israel. My mother, all we know is Jerusalem and Israel. So, like, our path automatically is always in the support of Israel. I think that's also what made us, after all these years of being in Israel, after 18 years, people have been in Israel without getting any kind of documentation, but we're still here, we're still hoping, and we're still holding our hands that we are going to be able to get something here, and we are openly supporting Israel as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild because Israel finds itself isolated, even among some of its best friends. Not stepping up to the plate with moral clarity is not.
Here you have people from South Sudan coming here and saying openly and advocating for Israel openly. This is amazing.
Not only advocating for Israel, and let me speak for myself and my friend Sayansi know that. For almost my 33 years in the United States, I has been all along advocating, fighting a group who has been champions that Israel is an apartheid state. From the United States to Canada, from Australia to South Africa, to a point I have to debate Dushman Tutu. Even I challenged him in South Africa that, Mr. Bishops, when you go to the airplane, did you take up your shoes? And he could not, he hesitated to answer that. And because he is now being confronted with reality, he said, yes, then we have to call the airline as an apartheid airline for the simple reason it forced you as a bishop to take up your shoes because you are now being motivated by Israel should not build the wall. Then why do you have the gates in your house? Why you get your house have all cameras, security camera? You are an apartheid, Bishop.
When you meet these anti-Israel people in the U.S. on the campuses and elsewhere, what do you tell them when they make that charge against Israel?
What I always tell them that I've been in Israel. This is my 7th times in Israel. When I'm in Israel, I feel like home. When I'm in Israel, I see Israel like a rainbow nations. I see the Arabs. I see the Jewish. And I see my fellow South Sudanese, even that she's not being recognized with others. They're happy to be here. One time I've been asked by a group of students here in Jerusalem, Americans, when I went to speak before them. They said, do you love it? I said, yes, I love it here. And then they couldn't believe, and I did ask them, why are you here? If you don't love it here, why are you here? Because we said in New York, love it or leave it. You have to love Israel to be here. If you don't love it, then leave it. So as Naka was saying, as a Christians, if you believe in Bibles, you believe in Jewish and you believe in Israel.
And have you found allies among the Jews who are willing to help you and the members of your community here?
In the States, yes. In the state, yes. And that is why I was even honored by the Jewish community in South Africa, by others. Even sometimes others will call me that I'm a Jewish more than the Jews themselves. And when I come to Israel, it's a different things, because I see my fellow Southern Sudanese who love Israel, who consider if they can put their life on the line to defend Israel, they are being discriminated against. I don't agree with that. But somebody will listen to this. I'm always optimistic that somebody will listen.
Naka, how did you feel about the 7th of October when you were in a lot, I think, at the time?
Yes.
What was your, as basically a de facto Israeli, how did you feel as a woman here in Israel?
I think the first thing that came about is basically our social media was basically bombarded with videos and pictures and images of what was happening at the time it was happening. And I was sitting there with my friends and the first thing that kind of like the feeling was very, very familiar to me. It was something that I like, it was almost like I recognized what was about to happen. I recognized what was going to happen because it's stuff that has happened to us before, stuff that the humiliation that has happened to us in Egypt. Growing up in Egypt, it's not easy. The racism that you face every single day, it's in a violent nature. And as a kid, you remember when everything went on, and I see those videos and the sorrow that I felt was very familiar. It wasn't just feeling sympathy, but it was from a place of recognition. It was from a place of knowing what actually happened to them and knowing what's going to happen, and the cases of rape and the cases of everything that has happened. It was very, very sad. It was very, very sad. That day, I think all of my friends and I we're all South Sudanese, but we all just spent the entire day sitting at home and going crazy watching videos and stories, and we couldn't believe that this was happening here in Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, how do you explain from where you stand that Israel, which is really not only Israelis but other nationals, there were 20 nationals, men and women of other countries, who were at the Nova Dance Festival in southern Israel. The atrocities that took place, beheadings, rapes, murders, incinerations. I mean, it was like the Middle Eastern Crusades.
They even murdered 21 Muslims.
Yeah, and they murdered 21 Muslims. How do you explain the attempt or even the successful repositioning of Israel as a victim of genocide as being the villain of genocide?
When I saw that for anyone in the world who have some kind of humanity in him and go silent without saying anything to condemn October 7th, that person's, he or she is not a human being. When you see what happens based on the images being taken by perpetrators themselves and put them on social media, because it is they who put everything in social media as for fun. These are human beings, elders, babies, vulnerable peoples. and you are sharing Allah Akbar, God is great. To me, that is an evil. I was in the States. When I watched the images, what come back in my mind is exactly what happened in Southern Sudan. When I was in the same situations, running for my life when others are falling down, I see the kid that day running for their life. And that is what I said in my article, that they come for my people now, they come for you. And that is exactly, and that is put me in a position that I have to do something. But what do I have in my hand? Nothing. And that's why I said, I decided to come. Even to come and cry with the family, to tell them that I feel your pain. I know what you're being through. The state of Israel was becoming terrified with that, even that it is a state capable to defend itself. But when you have your own civilians being targeted in an evil ways, the way what happened in October 7, to me, that is an evil. And that should have been condemned by everybody, not only condemns. Any person who have done that, everybody have a moral obligations to go and bring that person to justice. Because should not be accepted and cannot be accepted. I couldn't accept it. That's why I came and I walked from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to say, I'm standing with you. Every day when I was in Tel Aviv, I always go to the museum, the artists of museums, to meet with the family, cry with them. When I went to New York, I promised one family, I will take the ribbons and I will put in a center park, and I say, will send you the pictures, which I did. Even though I didn't know that there are the same elements of radicals, Muslims, that happen to be there, and they try to attack me. Even somebody was saying to me, you put in your life online. I've said, what about the life of those who have been taken? Somebody have to stand up for them. And I have, with the small scale that I have, that's what I can contribute. But let's hope that everybody will be brought alive. Everybody have to be brought home. That's how I see it. The October 7, it is an evil act and need to be dealt with. Somebody have to be brought to justice who advocate that. I don't agree with the world pressing a state of Israel today. I don't agree that Israel should care and to take the pressure because of that and do it. No, Israel have to do the right things.
What do you think?
Bring your people home.
And what do you think the lessons are for Israel? What lessons should Israel take from the massacre that happened on October 7th? What would you advise Israel?
Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. Israel was sleeping that day. You cannot fall asleep when you are being surrounded by all lions. Don't fall asleep.
The women's organizations were slow to condemn these atrocities.
In the UN.
In the United Nations, and even, American women's organizations. It took them a good few weeks. I'm wondering, did you understand that?
I think it's then when I realized how there is basically
there is discrimination.
The discrimination that was happening, and it kind of shocked me because I did not know that it was going to be like this. I mean, there were basically footage everywhere in social media. There were videos, and the fact that it took time for them to claim the women that were hurt. It was very disappointing. It was very shocking for me.
Do you think that Israel has led with the message that they're going to destroy Hamas, total victory, and then in the second message, we're going to bring our hostages home? And there were some of us at the Jerusalem Center that suggested to official spokespeople and even high-level government officials that they should first talk about bringing the hostages home, and they will do everything they can, and they should be permitted to use force in any way they can to bring the hostages home. How do you sense that the message about bringing hostages home would seem to be a more effective message, that people would allow Israel to do whatever it needed to do? Because any other country, if they had, the United States, 240 hostages is like almost 10,000 hostages of the United States. What would the U.S. do? What would any country in the world do if a neighboring enemy territory would kill, capture, kidnap, and abuse and defile its women and children?
Let me just answer that, and this goes back to the pressure that I said before, in which that there are people in the world leaders, including the President of the United States, and I will speak with authority as an American citizen, that from the good stance for Israel and now for, waving and trying to curb him because of pressure from the left and so on. We have to ask ourselves, when 9/11 happens, an American went with the almighty power, did anybody pressure them to stop what they're doing?
In Afghanistan, no. In Iraq, no.
Why? What is the difference?
Size.
Israel should go with his gut. Even if that I believe most of the loved ones, and I don't want to say it, but that is the truth. They may not be there. But let's assume that the government of Israel decided today, okay, we stop and wait for these people to be brought back. What will the others will say? What are you going to tell the family with their child being held by the terrorists? The government of Israel have to go heaven and earth, get everybody, wherever they are, even they are on the ground, dig them out and bring them to their family. That we did our part. That is my advice to the government.
And what do you think of those who are condemning Israel now because of its reaction to the massacre?
Let them condemn the October 7th first. Let them condemn October 7th first.
And what about...
And let them solve the problems, what happened on October 7th, put it the way it was. And Israel, if Israel continue to do that, then they will have a right to come and condemn Israel that we brought back everything that happened. We hold somebody responsible because we are not people from the jungles. You commit a crime, you face the law. Do that, and then if Israel continue doing what they're doing, then come and blame Israel. And I will be the first to blame Israel. But without that, Israel have to bring everybody back.
Were you surprised by October 7th? Did it surprise people like you?
Yes. Yes, I was surprised. That's why I said that.
What surprised you?
Israel was sleeping. The government was sleeping. There's no doubt about it.
What about the magnitude of the savagery of the attacks and the atrocities committed? Did that also surprise you?
Well, I know that one is no surprise to me because it was done by a person who have no sense of humanity. You cannot have sense of humanity and then you go and kill a child. You cannot have sense of humanity and then you take a child as an hostage. A child who doesn't know. A child is an angel. A Palestinian child, bring it to Israel tomorrow, will grow up as an Israeli child. But for him to take it hostage and put it under the dungeon, that's an evil. A grown-up peoples, 80 years old, slaughtered, 80 years old, you take it to as an hostage, that's an evil. So it surprised me because, it didn't surprise me because those who did them, perpetrators, they have no sense of human being. Because to them, those peoples, to them, they are not human beings. The way they was treating me as a slave when I was a slave, I was not being considered as a human being. And that's exactly what they did on October 7th.
Do you see any difference between Hamas, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or do you put all of them in one basket?
The only difference is the name. The only difference is the names. This called Boko Haram, this called Hamas, this calls Al-Qaeda, this called ISIS, this called Jama'a al-Islamiyya, this calls whatever you put it, Houthis, the difference is the names. Because they come and say one thing, Allah Akbar.
God is greatest.
God is great.
Yeah. Naka, what is your sense about if Egypt, where you were born, or South Sudan, or other countries beside Israel, had that happen to them? What do you think any other country would have done on the first day?
If Muslim woman had been kidnapped, or Muslim,
what would have happened in the Muslim world, Khaled?
Or in the Arab world?
What would have
The worst would have happened. Everybody would have been slaughtered. Everybody would have been killed. We started a real war, and would have been justified, because you harmed our women, you harmed our kids. It would have been justified.
Meaning Israel was soft. Israel was so went to the UN. We went to Qatar. We were negotiating here. We're negotiating there. Right. There was
Israel doing it because Israel being cornered by
Highly criticized.
the world, especially the United Do Nothing nations, who always have the sympathy to the others and then hush to Israel's.
There were 42 resolutions by the Security Council on that, and none of them addressed Hamas so far, or the hostages.
I said it, and I said it again. UN, United Do Nothing nations, is a country that they miss the point of what the UN is stand for. And as I said again, and I will say it, UN have more resolutions against the state of Israel compared to the state of Sudan that is slaughtered 4 million. A country of Sudan that enslaves thousands of Africans. I'm a living proof of that. If you ask the UN, where is the resolutions? None. UN will send rapporteur from the UN, and the rapporteur will come up with the reports. And the Arabs, in the entire Arabs, they will gain on that rapporteur where he have to resign, and then they put the report under the rocks. UN is not a friend to Israel. All Israel has need is a real friends, and Israel have to go with their guts. Without that, everybody looking for you. What happens October 7th? It is a beginning. Others are still waiting for you to curve it. And I'm not going to name them, you know it.
And there's a war going on in the north right now.
And you have it in the north. You have it others. You have it Iran building a nuclear weapon for one reason, to annihilate. They said it, to annihilate the state of Israel. Are we going to let that happen? No.
Jihad. It's a jihad.
Yes.
I think the moment Israel backs off, they will be very much swallowed. I think the moment they stop, more will happen.
It's a surrender.
More will happen.
It's a surrender.
The fact that it's not stopping until now, and the fact that North is even being involved in it right now with Lebanon, it shows that the moment that they will show any kind of weakness, the moment Israel, the government will show any kind of weakness, anything can happen.
Yeah. Does he think that Israel is unique in that sense, is that it's always, Israel Defense Forces, it's defending itself all the time. But what you're suggesting is that you really need to move from defense to offense.
You really need to move from defense to offense. And I also think because people, the Iron Dome, honestly, is a blessing. It's a miracle. And because I think the media or the people are not seeing that the bombs that are being thrown to Israel are actually causing real damage because of the Iron Dome that is protecting us, that they feel like nothing is actually happening here. They feel like people are lying here. They feel like people are not going through trauma. People are not having to go hide in bomb shelters every single few days now. Before it was like every single day. But it's happening. And we're living here. We're seeing it every single day. We're scared every single day. The moment you hear a boom, your heart skips a beat. The moment you hear a loud voice, you think it's an alarm. And it's every single person here is experiencing that.
I think the question you come and you know it better than us as a Jews and who live in Israel. But we who watch from far away, we come here with our sympathy and our love to the state of Israel. Before the 6 Days War, what was the call out? Kill all the Jews and throw them in the Red Sea.
Yeah, that's what Nasser was saying.
Yeah.
And it will kill all the Jews.
Bon appetit to the sharks. The Jews are coming.
So, and then after the war, what happened? They went to Khartoum, my country, and they spell out the 3 no's. That 3 no's is still in the books.
No peace, no recognition, no negotiation.
No negotiations.
But now we have South Sudan. We have the 4 yeses of South Sudan, right? Peace, recognition, negotiations, but as allies and normalization.
Yep. So that question, this will answer itself by itself. Israel's have to stand firm, and Israel's have to learn lessons from October 7th, that there are somebody waiting for a chance. And that somebody will not be Hamas, because we have to deal with Hamas. We have to deal with Hamas. If the world doesn't want to deal with Hamas by calling it by the right name as a terrorist organizations, we have to deal with Hamas, because Hamas is a terror organization. Not only terrorizing Israel, it's terrorizing his own peoples. Israel wasn't doing what they're doing today if Hamas did what they did. So for anyone who try to come and say, blame Israel, something wrong with that person. So that being said, the biggest persons whom we have to look out for is Iran. And others, those on that side next to you, Hezbollah, they still, Houthis, far away from Yemen, doing what they're doing, because they're looking for your weakness. And that weakness will come if you curb into the pressure from the West. As an American, if I get a chance to sit down with President Biden, what have we done after 9/11? We went heaven and earth. Let Israel do their job, because it is their family being hurt. It's not our family. The pain is on them. It's not on us. When the pain was on us, we went and did what we did. We didn't listen to no one. So that's what I can tell the presidents of the United States.
I think that's the most powerful message to end our discussion on, is a message to the U.S. from an American citizen who has seen it all and been through it all, a moment of moral clarity, I think.
We also hope that there will be a solution to the problem of the residency over here.
Yes.
That's very urgent.
That's an urgent problem, and these are not only family.
Embrace people.
Yeah, these are our best allies, our best family members, and we're able to make that change to have 120, 150. They're not citizens, but residents from South Sudan in Israel. They should become honored, sort of honorary residents and even citizens of the state of Israel. Clearly, so we work towards that. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. Thank you all very much. Simon Deng and Naka Pitia, Khaled Abu Toameh, dear friend and co-host. This has been Al-Shakar Sadlana, our Middle East, and it truly is our Middle East, and extending into Africa as well.
Thank you.
The best.